线上的朋友，大家晚上好，我是今晚的主持人 Jocelyn。您现在收听到的是贝街论坛银行部门揭秘系列活动第1季的最后一场 Scotiabank 专场 AML Program at Scotiabank。今天线上呢，有我们的老朋友，也有新加入我们的朋友，欢迎大家。简单介绍一下贝街论坛，我们成立于2011年。致力于为北美金融及相关领域的华人工作者和投资人打造一个专业的交流平台。今年由于疫情的关系，我们举办了一系列的线上活动，例如 Online Career Talk、谈股论金、投资讲座等。我们希望能够帮助年轻职场人士加深对金融相关行业的理解与认知，助力大家在金融银行等相关行业的职业发展。贝街目前运营着超过60个微信群，包括各大公司群、行业精英和高校校友群。大家也可以在微信公众号、YouTube、小红书、抖音等社交平台上找到并关注我们，获取最新的活动信息。说到我们今天的讲座主题，也就是 AML Program 反洗钱，似乎离我们的生活很远。更多的时候呢，我们都是从影视作品中了解到的。然而，神秘而不为人知的 AML 对维护经济和社会稳定有着重要的贡献和作用。那么 AML 是怎样运行的呢？它的 career path 是怎么样的呢？相信听完今晚的讲座，大家会对 AML 有新的了解和认知。今晚我们很荣幸地邀请到了来自 Scotiabank AML Audit 的 Senior Manager Holly 吴，为大家讲解 AML Program 的架构以及 Career Path 等相关问题。我们今天整个讲座的日程，首先会请 Holly 用25分钟左右的时间为大家进行讲解，之后我们将进入 Q&A 环节。欢迎大家在 Slido 上踊跃提问。如果大家看到自己感兴趣的问题，也可以给这些问题点赞。在 Q&A 环节，我们将请我们的嘉宾来回答点赞数目较高的几个问题。如果时间充裕的话，我们也将开放线上的直接问答，与嘉宾直接互动。OK， 那么接下来我们有请我们今晚的嘉宾开始他的分享吧。
好，谢谢主持人，能听到我吗？
可以的。
好，谢谢。大家晚上好，很荣幸来这里和大家一起分享一下银行里的各种不同的功能吧。今天我就讲一讲我现在工作的这个内容，反洗钱。那首先我先简短的介绍一下我自己。我是在美国的内华达大学 University of Nevada 读的学位。那学士学位呢，我是读的 Hospitality Management 酒店管理，因为我喜欢旅游，所以当时就选了这个行业。后来呢Master 我又读了一个Professional Accountancy， 就是跟会计有关了。从毕业以后一直到现在呢，我一直在从事跟审计、风险管理还有一些法规合规相关的工作。那在这个过程中呢，就考了几个证书大家可以在这看一下，就在美国呢考了华盛顿州的注册会计师还有注册内审师，还有最近做 AML 工作中呢又考了一个注册反洗钱师的这么几个证书。那我从事反洗钱工作呢有3年。都是在 Scotiabank 的 Internal Audit 里面 ，Internal Audit 里面有一个专门的小组，就是做 AML，所以这是我学到 AML 的这一个途径。在我开始之前，我先说一下，我从来没有在一个讲中文的环境中工作过，所以我觉得我可能接下来 presentation 讲的会我会用英语来讲，我比较comfortable 一点，而且说的比较准确。如果我说的太快，然后说的不清楚之后有问题的时候，我再做下解答请大家见谅。Okay, let's begin. So first, I want to clarify, just to define what is money laundering, right? You hear a lot of this word, and before we know what is anti-money laundering, we need to find out what is money laundering. So money laundering is a process used by criminals to disguise the source of money or assets or any wealth derived from criminal activity. And oftentimes you will hear in AML regime, it's called a predicate offense. So those money we also call dirty money because it's coming from criminal activity. So what kind of predicate offense we're talking about? You can think of anything, right? Tax evasion, here I list a few. Narcotics trafficking, human trafficking, fraud, corruption, cybercrime, which is very active recently, and also wildlife trafficking. So it could be any form or shape, criminal activity, all those is considered predicate offense. Then for those crime, the criminal's purpose is money. That's the only purpose for the take the risk, commit those crimes, right? So if we take the money out of this equation, the number of crime will dramatically decrease. So if we look, I couldn't find the earlier estimate, more recent estimation, but estimated in 2017 by UN, right? Globally, every year, 2 to 5% of global GDP, or US dollar $800 billion to $2 trillion has been laundered. So those are the money derived from honest people, honest business. So the impact on the society, on the economy, is very severe. Just this number, I think, is an estimation, but it's very conservative. You could, right? And the number is only growing. And, so that's I want to define this first, and to tell why we are doing what we are doing, why we need to fight money laundering, right? So because the importance of fighting crime, fighting money laundering, the more and more countries' government pay more attention to this kind of program. They want the financial entities to help out to find those crimes. So back in 1989, 7 Western countries, and the government got together, decided to form this Financial Action Task Force. And this organization is focused on, design and promote some method or guidelines to fight money laundering and terrorist financing. Today, I'm not going to talk about terrorist financing because just a short time, so I'll just focus on fighting money laundering. Okay, so this FATF, they issued around 40 recommendations. They always update the recommendations for the country's government to implement through their legislation. So for Canada, the regulation around AML is called Pursuit of Crime, Money Laundering, and the Terrorist Financing Act, PCML-TFA. So this is a piece of legislation that all the reporting entity, the companies that are covered by this piece of legislation must comply, right? So I list most of the reporting entity here for everyone, just so you know, if you are interested in this line of work, you don't really need to just come to bank. You can apply or look for positions in the insurance company, insurance brokers agent, money service business, and real estate brokers and casinos. Believe it or not, a lot of money in and out, so there has to have AML measure put in place, and the dealers in precious metal and stones. So all this entity, they must have AML program, and there's opportunity, right? A position for someone interested in working this line. So I list here just for your reference. And to supplement this piece of legislation, our financial institution supervisor, OSFI, right? If you heard this all the time, Office of the Superintendent of Financial Institution, they also issue some guidelines to help the reporting entity, how to set up the program, what elements should be in the program. More than 10 years ago, they issued a guideline called a B8. Okay, they provide a holistic view of what this AML program should look like. And also another government agency, Financial Transactions and Report Analyst Center of Canada, we call it FinTrack. They are financial intelligence unit. So for all the member countries under FATF, we have to set up a financial intelligence unit that collecting all the intelligence. Any suspicious reports about certain entity or individual, they have to collect those for analysis purpose, and also to work with law enforcement for their investigation. So and the FinTrack issue a lot of guidance ongoingly, right? And they require all the reporting entity to file certain piece of information. So if you're interested, I suggest you can read OSFI B8. I also put a note there like that BA is phased out because about a year ago, Office and FinTrack got together, they talked, they realized there's an opportunity for them to streamline their supervisory and the regulatory function. So OSFI decided to pass on their AML supervisory function to FinTrack going forward, and OSFI will reprioritize their mandate. So this BA is phasing out, but I find that document is very easy to read, around like 40-something pages. And if you want to know, like I said, holistically what the program should be like, that's a very good document. So I list here just for your reference. And because AML is all about complying with regulation now, because a lot of countries, they put a lot of attention to it, put out the regulations. So every company, if you have operation overseas in whatever country, most likely there's a regional or local AML regulation you have to follow. So for example, in the US, AML is a big industry, right? So because they have Bank Secrecy Act, they have a Patriot Act that all the financial entity has to comply. So a lot of companies spend resources in this area. And if the company you're applying for in the future had operation in Asia or Latin America, you need to make sure you check out those the regulations in those jurisdictions. Okay, so here I explain why we do AML work. And next, I'm very high level. I explain a little bit how at the Scotiabank, how we structure this function, how we position those different units to combat money laundering risk. So whenever you hear risk, you can automatically assume there will be three line of defense. Three line defense is still a model used by a lot of companies. So here with Scotiabank, no exception, we have three line of defense. First line is the business line AML controls. So those are the individuals or unit that is managing the customer-facing piece, right? First line, they are facing the customer, they are generating the revenue, and so there has to be some AML measures put in place. And what they are, I will explain a little bit. Then at Scotiabank, we have four business lines: Canadian banking, international banking, global banking and market, and wealth. So each business line, they have their unique product and services. So the AML controls need to be tailored to those different product and services. So each line got their own, right? Just customized. Then we have a second line. Second line here at Scotiabank is on the Global Risk Management, GRM department. And this function is led by the global chief AML officer. You will hear sometimes Camlo. That's that individual. And this individual is also required by the regulation. All the entity for the AML program, there has to be one individual who is accountable, right? So for Scotiabank, we have Camlo, and he will lead his team to perform second line functions, which is not customer facing. It's not generating revenue. He will provide some policy, guidance for the first line, provide some consultation, and sometimes they will provide like QA testing, effective challenges. So what some other function will entail in second line, I will explain a little bit later. And third line, that's internal audit. So that's my department. Okay. I believe a couple of weeks ago, there were two ladies talking about internal audit already, so I'm not gonna spend too much time in this area. Okay, so just drill down a little bit further. For first line of defense, okay, again, this is very high level. I just want to show where those functions sits, okay? So we have Mr. CEO and top, Mr. Porter, and for each business line, they got their business line heads and the business line AML controls. Again, I put here, because the uniqueness of each business line, we need AML controls in each business line. Then for the ML functions that are consistent across the business line, right? Then we have a centralized ML operations sitting in the first line, but it doesn't belong to any business line. They will perform the task that is across the board, across all the business line. Then we have IT support for ML system. For ML related functions, a lot of the systems need to be deployed. I will explain a little further later. So we have a big group of IT folks, just to support those systems. For the second line of defense, again, is on the global risk management department, and the department head is the chief risk officer. Okay, and he is not only managing money laundering risk, he's managing all the risk that bank faces, like credit risk, another big one, liquidity risk, model risk, market risk, and compliance risk, right? So 3-4 years ago, our ML function is on the compliance, because it is a compliance function, compliance with all the ML regulation. But because the work gets more and more complex, we need more and more people. So the bank decided to split AML and any other compliance work. So any other compliance work now is managed by Chief Compliance Officer, and any AML related and sanction related is under our global CAMLO. So just very high level briefly, our global CAMLO, he oversees business line CAMLOs. So again, for business line, they are providing a customized advice to that particular business line. They are dealing with the regulators in those countries that only that business line has. For example, international banking. Scotiabank has large operation in Latin America, in Mexico and Latin America. So the business line CAMLO, he will be responsible to, communicate with local regulator and support the first line ML function. So each line got their own CAMLO. And also there's the AML Chief Operating Officer on the CAMLO. His team will be responsible for policy setting and ML data, any model and analytics for ML models. That's all under him. There's a lot more small groups under him, and also I think risk assessment is under him. Second line testing is under him. That's a lot, so I didn't list them all. Then on the CAMLO, we also have global head of sanctions. And also for some other companies, they might have sanction function outside the AML. For Scotiabank, we everything put under our global CAML. And sanction is another big topic, which I will not go into today. Okay, just because of time. Okay, so this is second line defense, and the third line of defense. Then that's my department. We are independent. We are providing independent opinion on the design and operating effectiveness of the AML processes and controls for both first line and second line. So we're testing both first line and second line to make sure all the regulatory requirements have been met, have been put in policy and procedure. And so that's my team's function. So I put the AML audit. If you have any specific question regarding my group, we can talk about later. Okay. So this is line defense. So I explain why we're doing this work and how in Scotiabank we set up to do this work, right? Structure-wise. And now I will spend a bit more time on what, right? We got the why, we got how, and what exactly we are doing. For the AML program, there are several key elements. Some document or some company call it the key pillars. You know, the pillar, just like the column supporting the building. So either way is fine. It's the same thing. So those elements I list here, everything is required by the regulation. Okay. So there's nothing we can negotiate. It's mandatory. So we have to set up those programs, and each element got its own purpose. So I will explain one by one. If you have any specific question, I can ask later. So if you step back, just think, what is money laundering risk? Money laundering risk for a bank or any other reporting entity is the likelihood we are dealing with a criminal. We're supporting his or her money moving transactions, right? So it's more like customer risk. If you think it's dealing with customer risk, there are a lot of honest people. Most of our customers are honest individuals, but definitely there's bad potatoes hiding in between. So the first thing we need to do is know your customer, KYC. So everywhere you will hear this word. KYC and customer due diligence, right? We need to find out who exactly we are dealing with. So someone working the branch or call you up on the phone to apply for a credit card, or tendering. Tendering is all online. So we have to put matter into to find that person's identification, name, address, occupation. If you can, for like an investment account, you need to find out their maybe income level, if it's a mortgage, like income level. So all those you need to find out. And this is performed by first line. So if we go back to this first line, right? That's by the business line AML controls, and also first line, frontline employees, the tellers, the financial advisors, right? So they will perform all those functions. They will find out who we are really dealing with. So of course, the bank has policy and procedure and guidance to exactly what information we need to collect. And also based on regulation, certain things, private information, privacy law in place, certain things we can collect, certain things we cannot collect. So for this, that's first line, they will perform this. And also another very important thing we need to find out is why. Why the customer want to use this particular product or service of the bank, right? What's their intent, right? For customer experience purpose, maybe someone with, based on their intent, they will suggest some other product. But for money laundering or AML purpose, we really need to know why they want to open this account with us. Okay. Then once we onboard this customer, Could be an individual, could be an entity, small business, right? Could be a corporate company, like corporate clients, big company. And our customer can also be another bank, right? TD can be a customer for Scotiabank for whatever they need. Then once we onboard this customer, we need to risk rate this customer for AML purpose. And why? Because the bank does not have all the resources to treat every customer equally. We have to take a risk-based approach to see who has higher risk of money laundering. So we pay closer attention to them, right? For the ones lower risk, we don't need to pay so much attention. They're honest people, we just provide whatever service they need. And so the bank has a methodology to risk rate each customer. Usually it's based on the customer's occupation, what kind of product they are setting up with the account, what's the delivery channel. Is it something they have to come into the branch face-to-face, or is it something like a Tangerine's product, right? We don't see customer, right? The customer we don't see pose a bit higher risk in terms of money laundering. So we will put those into consideration, as well as the customer, which country is residing, right? So a customer in Canada, for example, me, Holly, my job is with a bank. I live here. My product is very simple: checking account, credit card, right? And I live here. I work for a reputable bank, and most likely my risk rating is low. So they don't need to pay too much attention to me. But for someone or some business, say down the street at the corner, that's a convenience store, right? There's this person wants to open a business account for his convenience store, and it's very cash intensive business. We got a lot of cash in and out every day, deposit cash daily, and then his money laundering risk will be a little bit higher than mine, right? Not saying he is laundering money, but just the risk level will be higher. And if same thing, the convenience store, but it's located in Colombia, okay, that's even higher, because Colombia as a country, so the country associated have higher money laundering risk, then the risk is even higher. So we have criteria and the methodology put in place to assign risk rating. And once the risk rating is assigned for all the customers that rated high, then enhanced due diligence come in place. So let me go back. First line here, we have centralized AML operations, right? Under this department, there's a unit called the EDD unit, EDDU. So their full-time job is to do more due diligence work on the high-risk customers. So they might, require the customer to provide, tax return or whatever document listed in the procedure, and also once the customer open account for the first 30 days, 60 days, the employees at EDDU, they will pay a closer attention to the transactions within the first 30 days, 60 days, just making sure nothing fishy is going on. If they identify anything abnormal for that kind of account, for that kind of business, for that kind of area, they will file an unusual transaction report further to another unit for further investigation. So everything is to understand the intent of the customer and what's their behavior, right? What the behavior, their transaction look like. So that's what CRR and the EDD entails. Okay, so next element is called name screening and payment screening. So name screening, in our CRR methodology, there's something called PEP, right? PEP, political exposed a person. If there's a PEP coming in to open an account, like a federal judge, a mayor, whatever, their risk rating is high. It's automatically high. And so the name screening and the payment screening, one purpose is for sanction purpose. Another one is to identify PAP. And for the sanction purpose, again, every country, they have their sanction list, and they have their specific rule around certain type of sanctions. So through the screening, we have a screening engine, right? We put, today we have, let's say, today we have 100 new customers coming in. So at night, this engine will screen all the names against all the sanction list. Canada has sanction list, US has sanction list, UN, United Nations, and UK, you name it, a lot of sanction lists, and they will screen against those lists. If there's someone identified as on those lists, then there's a team to look into it to make decision if we should provide service, provide product, and to further help them with payment, with wire transfer, that kind of thing. So this is very important. It's also a regulatory requirement. So this function also there, okay? Why is first and second line? So first line, like the centralized function, they will do screening and they will look at those alerts. The alerts meaning there's a match, right? The name is match. It could be partial match, could be exact match. If they run my name Hollywood, if by any reason, whatever reason, their sanction list with there's another Hollywood on that sanction, then there will be alert generated on me. And then someone will look at versus, oh, okay, this Hollywood is, working at Scotiabank, is born on this day and day, and that Hollywood is different. So they will do those comparison and called investigation or adjudication. They will decide if this is a false alarm or it's a true match. Or sometimes they cannot decide, right? It's not that clear, though they will escalate to second line, to someone with more experience to further investigate. So the example I give you is very simple, but in reality, there are a lot of complicated cases. And it could be individual company, it could be a vessel, a ship on the sanction list, right? So that's a lot of work involved there. So I'm just briefly touch. Okay, then next element is risk assessment. Risk assessment, again, every entity just got limited resources. They have to take risk-based approach for their program. They cannot treat everything equally. But differently from the CRR, this risk assessment is on the unit, okay? On the first line or whatever the unit, each unit perform those functions. And we want to say, okay, for example, retail. Canadian banking, retail banking, right? We want to risk assess this unit. What's the inherent risk of this unit? What kind of customer they were facing, and what kind of product they were facing, they are offering, and all in the lens of money laundering risk, okay? And that will give them a rating for inherent risk, high, moderate, low, right? Then retail banking, this unit, they have put in a lot of strong internal controls. They got ongoing training. They have never had audit issue there. So they got a very strong internal control. So in the end, their residual risk is low, right? So this is the risk assessment, risk management concept. You always want to find out before you decide how much energy and resources I put in this particular unit to manage them. I want to know how well they are doing. If they are doing very well, I don't need to pay too much attention, right? Let them run it. If they lack in resources, the control is weak, the company will direct some funding to that entity. That's what this risk assessment will help. So every year, the bank is required, again, by the regulation, to assess all the units that has money AML risk, not the money laundering risk. AML risk, meaning we are not doing AML work as well, right? So how well we are doing, right? So for Canadian banking, they will do a for all those units, retail, commercial, they will do a risk assessment to find out this unit is doing very well, or it's doing so-so, right, or doing not so good. Then they accumulate all the rating, all the way roll up to this business line. Okay, we give Canadian banking a rating of moderate. And same thing for other business line, other unit, they do this risk assessment. Once they have this result, the banking, the senior management can make a decision how much attention, how much resources I can invest in this group or that group to reduce the risk level, to bring their work is up to our risk appetite. Right, so this is a big topic. I'm just gonna touch on a little bit. Okay, so a lot of function here is performed by both first and second line. Okay, then next big topic, one of the most important elements of the AML program is transaction monitoring. Okay, transaction monitoring, it's the fun part. So what they do is, in the bank, we have both manual and automatically monitoring mechanism. So for example, the frontline workers, the employee at the branch, if they notice anything suspicious about customer, right? Customer coming in with a whole bunch cash, kind of dirty and all small value, but they want to change to a bigger value. And then this customer really have this kind of behavior. I'm just giving a very simple example. So anything the teller or the advisor finds suspicious, they will file unusual UTR, unusual transaction report up to another department for further investigation. But they can never tell the customer, sorry, you're acting strange today, so I'm not gonna help you. They can never tip off the customer. They will still provide whatever service as required, but behind if they see anything abnormal, they have the obligation to report to another department in the bank for further investigation. So that's one type of transaction monitoring. But the biggest part is the one by automated system. So the automatic system, they will have rules and rules put in place in a system based on some red flags, right? So for checking account, for this kind of customer, what kind of activity considered normal? And if all of a sudden this month there's something unusual happens, it's a huge spike in deposit or huge spike in whatever wire transfer in or out, the system should be able to detect that abnormality and generate alert. Then there's a group called Financial Intelligence Unit, also financial, but within the bank. And there's individual, sitting in this unit. They will manually review those alerts. So if say there's alerts generated on my account, right? They have to go in to see Holly's profile, Holly's intent for this account, and Holly say who she is. So for her identity, for her profile, we should expect this kind of actions, this kind of transactions, this kind of volume, whatever, right? But then all of a sudden, this month, something strange happened, never happened before. So the customer might also pull out my credit card information, right? To see is some abnormal purchase there, what's going on? So they will do the investigation. So this is where the investigation come in place. And a lot of experience and judgment involved in this process. So every day we have thousands of alerts, and the analysts need to go through them. And if they see anything suspicious and there's a reasonable ground for suspicion, they don't have to prove, okay, Holly is actually laundering money. They don't have to prove, just they have suspicion. They need to file a STR report, suspicious transaction report, to FinTrack, right? The FinTrack I talked about earlier, they collect all those things from all the reporting entities. This is where the dots connected. So the analyst will have the manager review, manager making sure, yes, this is very suspicious. And they probably will do run a negative news screening on me, see if I have any in the news media, I have done something negative. So if no match, no match. There's a match, there could be part of a clue for the intelligence unit to conclude whether I'm actually doing something suspicious, right? So they were gathering all those information. They review a couple months worth of bank statement, my credit card statement, information in and out. And once they form, they have the conclusion suspicious, they file to FinTrack. So this is a lot of work here. So for next one, regulatory reporting. This is again required by the regulation. So the STR I mentioned is one kind. Another kind is large cash transaction. So if you can recall, like every time you fly in from another country to Canada, there's a custom card on the plane you need to file, right? They will ask you a question. Did you bring a cash value of 10,000 or more? So that doesn't mean you will be taxed on this or whatever. You don't need to worry, right? If the money is your own money, it's not coming from a client, you don't need to worry. It just custom officer collect this information. They also send to FinTrack. All those is intelligence because the countries are concerned about a lot of large cash movement. A lot of criminals move cash around from country to country. So this is a way they kind of monitor. But if you have done nothing right, you don't need to worry about anything. And please, claim honestly, right? If you bring something $10,000 cash in, you don't claim, you will get bigger trouble. Okay, so that's regulatory reporting. Then on top of all those, there's governance, right? I mentioned earlier, there has to be a global CAML appointed to be accountable for all this program. And governance also include policy setting. The policy need to be aligned with regulatory requirement, and the training has to be ongoing to teach people about the policy and procedure, and what's the new thing coming in, training, what else? Management reporting, okay? Every quarter, the CAML need to provide opinion to the board of directors because ML is a very important topic, and ML risk is a big risk. So the CAML need to report to the board of directors every quarter, say how we doing. We're doing fine, or we have some area for improvement, or whatever he need to report up. And if there's extra funding needed to fix things, those things need to be communicated. Okay. And so very high level, I run this very fast, just to explain to you what exactly is included in this program. And also last but least is the independent effectiveness testing, also required by regulation. So minimum every 2 years, Audit has to do audits on all the elements above, right? All the elements above I talked about. So in those areas, we were looking at policy and procedure, control environment, training. Okay, know your customer. Was there adequate training done for the frontline worker to know? So all those things is all they have to look at. Okay, so a lot of information. I run very fast. So let's take a pause here. So I know a lot of you are very interested in career paths. If you come into this area, what possibility? What can you go, right? So after I explain this, So all those areas, there's opportunity. You can work in any of those areas. Mostly for entry level, I think the first line is where most people start. Second line, you do need to have some experience. So maybe once you accumulate some experience and the knowledge in the first line, you can move, right? You can, if you're interested in transaction monitoring, you want to use your investigative skills, you can go to transaction monitoring FIU unit. And if you're good at policy writing, you can work in the governance, right? And you can, once you have some other experience, you can come to the audit, or you can do name screening and customer risk. So those are the possibility of career where you can work in. This is horizontally, right? And vertically, of course, you can start moving up. Start with one area and moving up from analyst to manager to senior manager or whatever. And I also mentioned, IT. There's a lot of AML systems, right? So if you IT background, you can to work on the system that support AML systems, right? And here, right? And this is horizontally you can move around. And another thing I put in the very beginning, career path, right? Once you gain some knowledge and experience in AML, you understand the process, the flow, what to focus on. If you feel strongly about any of the client, I know some of my friends, they got some fraud related certification because they are interested in anti-fraud, not interested in fraud, anti-fraud, right? So they want to, in the future, work in area like fighting fraud, or some people can go to tax CRA to be an investigator to see whether it's tax evasion, right? Or if you very IT savvy, cyber savvy, you can in the future move to cybercrime and fighting cybercrime. So there's a lot of possibilities. And for myself, wildlife trafficking, I'm a nature lover, right? I love the nature, I love animals. And whenever I hear, someone still eating the shark fin soup, buying some, the elephant ivory decoration, whatever, it just makes me mad. Make me mad. So this is something I feel strongly about, right? So in the future, if that opportunity comes, I will contribute myself, to fighting wildlife trafficking, wildlife trade, right? So I think the career path is quite wide. You can go vertically or go horizontally, a lot of possibilities. And on the other hand, having said that, if any of those clients, you don't care about it, it's, you don't feel too strongly about, oh, I have to fight this, I want to be part of this. And I don't think AML is for you, it's right for you. Because along the road, AML work is a lot of challenges. And if you don't feel this is meaningful, right? That's nothing wrong with that. You can, you find your whatever is meaningful to you and what you like, right? If you don't feel this is meaningful and along the way, when you see a lot of challenges, you might not have that kind of motivation to overcome the challenge. So today's pseudo talk, I'm just hoping, to answer some of your questions, explain what is this, demystify this program, and at the same time, just invite you to think about it, right? What kind of things trigger your happiness, your anger, whatever to guide your career path. Okay, so I just want to take a moment to talk about the career pathing because I know a lot of people are interested. Okay, if you still have a question around that, we can discuss. Okay, so very quickly, so along that topic, what's some of the hard and soft skills for entry level? I would just say for entry level. Once you're in the field, you quickly find out. So here left, I list compliance experience. If you have compliance experience in other area, privacy or whatever, that's a plus. Or here have business knowledge, or I should put an or here, right? You have business knowledge. If you're doing retail banking right now, you know what the product and service look like, and what's the normal activity, normal transaction of that product and services. Then it will help you to identify what is abnormal, right? So if you have business knowledge, big plus. Or if you have knowledge of data analytics, machine learning, all those helping the process to be more efficient and effectiveness, then this definitely it's an asset. So here I should put or. You don't have to have all three. And then the soft side, you know, it's very straightforward here. You can read. And I just want to point out, if you enjoy ML work, then you must have, if you want to do a good job, you must have some curiosity and the sensitivities to the environment, right? To the changing world. Just for example, COVID. Since COVID happens, you know, the fraud activity has increased by more than 300%, because the criminals are always looking for opportunity to scam people, right? They're looking for opportunity, and when people are panic, anxious, that's a great opportunity for them to use their tools. So very quickly here, if you don't know the first gentleman there, then you know the second one here. Okay. Then trends, very quickly, I think we run out of time, sorry. Trends of AML. Because the innovation of financial product service is so fast, and like I said, criminals always looking for opportunities. So they are always looking for new technology to help them launder money, right? Bitcoin, a lot of criminal, for sure, they are the first adopters to use that technology to launder money. They learn about it, they do training as well, right? And so this is definitely something that will drive. The second point here is the changing, ever-changing and increasingly demanding regulations driven by changing financial crisis. So here, we have to be ready to monitor all the changes in the regulations and be ready to adopt them quickly. And the last piece, I just want to say, you know, everybody is adopting the new technology. So if you know machine learning, big plus, okay. So last, I'm not going to, I just list two examples of the hiring some requirement here for entry level in the transaction monitoring and the experience level. So you can later to see what kind of is required. So that's all I prepared. Sorry, I'm running late for the time. So I will turn back to Jocelyn if see if any question I can help with.
Okay, sure. Thanks, Molly, for the wonderful sharing. I believe that everyone online get more understanding about the structure of the AML program, career path, skill size, and so on. So, which is really useful in the future, I think. And during the speech, we collected a number of questions on Slido. So we moved to the next session, the Q&A session. I thought that here's a lot of people care about what other specific things you are looking for. You're looking for when conducting auditing on the AML program.
What other things I'm looking for?
Yeah, what other specific things you are looking for when conducting the audit on AML program?
Okay.
Yeah.
So when we do the audit, we are following the COSO internal audit framework, right? So we're looking at control environment, control activity, and all those has to fulfill the regulatory requirements to make sure there's a policy and a procedure and the design. Well, they write the long procedures, but whether everything they ask for is fulfill the requirement is meeting the purpose, the final objective of that action is actually identify risk or reduce risk, right? So we have to look at the design. Once the design we said it's good, you know, put in place, and then whether they have sufficient resources to implement all the designs, because it doesn't help if you have a beautiful policy, perfect policy, but nothing being followed. So I think we spend a lot of time on design, and also the system. This piece very challenging is the system. Also, sometimes I'm learning as I'm doing all that. the system. I need to understand the system, the rules, the models. I need to spend a lot of time to understand exactly what they are doing, what the data in, whether the data has been processed the way it should be. So those we pay a lot of attention to. I think the rest, I think pretty much the same as the other auditor who shared before. Yeah.
Yeah. And another question is, I noticed that you mentioned about the machine learning skill size during the requirement for the entry level, and also mentioned that in the manager level. So how has the AI machine learning affected AML over the past few years, and what kind of impact will it have on the future AML roles?
So this topic I'm not too familiar with, because I think we Scotiabank, we don't have a very matured machine learning or AI implement yet. There are definitely some usage, right? For example, there's something called a payment scan. For payment scanning, we kind of using natural language process to understand the address or names. What's the details of that? I'm still learning. But we do definitely, we have to use more and more in the future to improve the efficiency. Yeah, like I said, the alerts, so many alerts, most of them are false alarm. So one goal is to reduce those false alarm. So I know the people in data and machine learning, IT, they are working very hard. But since I haven't audited anything around that, so I don't want to talk too much, something I'm not expert in. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Holly. We have also a last question for you. So could you please talk something about the career path, the future career path for someone who want to pursue the career in the AML in the future? Anything interesting cases in your AML experience?
I think in the future it's the same as for now.
Yep.
So maybe if you are still young in college, you prepare. I think definitely pick up learning about data. I'm learning too. We have my colleague and I taking courses as we go. Because I'm very familiar with process, with control, but data and system is something you have to catch up. So not graduate, but you're preparing for the future. Data. Learn something about data and just a little basic understanding, probably about machine learning. You don't have to be an expert, right? So data analytics. So those are the new things. The other thing, like the compliance and the product and business knowledge, you cannot gain this at school, right? So you kind of have to get into the first entry level and either like a teller or advisor to understand the product. But before you get to the bank or whatever insurance company, you can learn data. That's like the three things I list. The other two probably require some actual experience. The third thing you can do it now. Okay, I hope that answers.
Okay. So can I ask one more question?
Yeah, sure.
Is there any requirement about the certificate about the AML program? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So look at this entry level. It doesn't require a certificate, right? And this manager level, then it does.
Yeah.
Right. So for entry level, you can say you can try a little bit, then see if this is really a path you're interested in, right? Then you can start learning. But for the manager level, then I do recommend.
Here's the manager level.
Right. And there's another organization, like recently I attend a lot of their webinars. I think they're pretty good. It's called Association of Certified Financial Specialists, ACFCS. ACFC. So either one of them, but I think the CAMS, because they have been very well known and they are internationally recognized, right? So if you get the certification, you can work here, work in China, work in Europe, wherever. This designation is recognized. Unlike my CPA, it's only recognized in the USA, right? So I would suggest you can Google CAMS or ACAMS, just Association of Certified Environmental, and just have a feel what kind of requirement for this designation. I think this designation does require some working experience. So yeah, you can have a look there.
好的，谢谢 Holly 的精彩分享和耐心的解答。那么由于今天由于今天时间的关系呢，我们 online 互动的环节就暂时不开放了。那么希望下次有机会呢，和 Holly 进行更加深入的了解和互动。然后也感谢今天线上各位朋友的积极提问。那最后的最后呢，未来一段时间，贝街的有些活动已经上线或者正在准备中了。那其中最有趣的呢，就是我们贝街论坛第1届的 Vlog 大赛正式上线了。让我们用短视频的方式一起来记录生活的点点滴滴和每个精彩的瞬间。那还有没有报名的小伙伴呢，快快行动起来吧。另外，贝街1年1度的校园巡讲活动也在筹备上线中。今年预计增加活动场数，去到更多的学校，让更多的同学了解贝街，了解金融领域的相关知识。希望届时呢，能够看到大家熟悉的身影。最后呢，如果线上还没有加入贝街公司群和校友群的朋友，可以在我们活动的微信群里联系我们的工作人员，了解进群的相关事宜，持续获得更多的活动信息。那么我们今晚的活动到这里就告一段落了，谢谢大家。这里是贝街，大家晚安。